That's what fans and even the developers call one of the most anticipated ships in the Star Citizen verse. Recently hinted at again and somewhat announced for a 2025 release during last year's CitizenCon 2954, the RSI Perseus is said to be one of the most unmissable ships in the persistent universe. It sits right between heavy fighters, the Hammerhead and the Polaris. And truth be told, there is no other ship quite like it in that category. The Hammerhead comes close, it's also a fan favorite, but it's nowhere near as commonly seen in the verse as the RSI Polaris. The Polaris is one of my favorites. It's not a solo ship, but it shines in multiplayer combat both in space and on the ground. And it even works for exploration adventures. It offers a lot of flexibility to support different playstyles, at least in my opinion. The Perseus will cater to a variety of combat players, especially smaller teams. It supports up to 6 players and comes equipped with 2 manned turrets and 2 auto remote turrets. Quick disclaimer, these stats are based on the 2020 concept reveal. Things could change over the next few weeks and months as the team at Cloud Imperium Games puts the final touches on the ship. But let's dive a little deeper into the concept phase of the RSI Perseus. We'll start with the design briefing, but before we do, make sure to like and subscribe at the end of this video if you enjoy what you've seen. I am Jack Long and this is Jack Space Games. The RSI Perseus isn't just another warship, it's a gunboat, and that distinction makes all the difference. Back in 2020, Cloud Imperium Games set out to design a heavy point defense ship capable of taking on large and sub-capital ships in a fleet defense. Unlike the Hammerhead, which specializes in anti-fighter screening, the Perseus is built to counter bigger threats. It's a ship that doesn't need overwhelming firepower in numbers. Its massive turrets and focused firepower do the talking. At 100 meters long, 50 meters wide and standing 20 meters tall, the Perseus is a mid-sized powerhouse. Its 2 man turrets, each armed with twin-size 7 weapons, are designed to punch holes in enemy hulls. Supporting them are 2 auto-remote turrets loaded with twin-size 3 ballistic Gatlings, perfect for laying down suppressive fire. And just in case things get serious, the ship carries 2 size 5 torpedo launchers, each stocked with 10 torpedoes, ready to end a fight quickly. But it's not just about firepower. The Perseus features 2 main engines, VTOL thrusters for maneuverability, and a large quantum drive to keep up with fleet movements. It supports a crew of 6, making it ideal for small tactical groups looking to make a serious impact on the battlefield. Chris Roberts and the design team wanted something different. Not another destroyer, not another torpedo boat. Instead, they looked at the history. Back in the American Civil War, ironclad gunboats changed naval warfare forever. Small, heavily armored and built around big, devastating guns. The RSI Perseus takes the same philosophy and brings it to the Star Citizen universe. Designed by John Crew and Adam Parker, with concept art from Gavin Rothery, the Perseus was envisioned as a fleet defender, protecting UAE battlegrounds from larger threats. It often works alongside the Hammerhead, covering anti-fighter duties, while the Perseus locks onto bigger targets. And the name? Perseus, the Greek hero and demigod, wasn't chosen until late in the development. Until then, it was simply known as the RSI Gunboat. But let's be real, the Gunboat has a nice ring to it, doesn't it? When a design brief for the RSI Perseus was complete, the next challenge was bringing the Gunboat to life, visually. That responsibility fell to art director Paul Jones, who had to translate the team's vision into a ship that looked powerful, aggressive, and distinct, without just making it a baby Polaris. Jones set 3 key goals. Number 1, avoiding making it look like a smaller Polaris. Number 2, Give it an aggressive, threatening silhouette. And number 3, make sure it had a cool factor with deployable or unique elements. To get the ball rolling, Jones turned to Gavin Rothery, one of the most experienced concept artists in the Star Citizen lineup. If you're familiar with ships like the Aegis Gladius, Miss Prospector, Asperia Prowler or Aegis Terrapin, then you've already seen Rothery's work. Now it was time to add an RSI warship to his portfolio. Because it had been a while since Cloud Imperium had worked on an RSI capital ship, they looked back at the company's design evolution. Jones referenced everything from the modern RSI Mantis to Ryan Church's 2012 Bengal carrier concept. The goal was to ensure that the Perseus felt like a natural part of the RSI's ship lineage, while standing out as a fresh, new design. With a tight deadline, only 3 months to deliver a concept ready for IE 2950, the team had to work efficiently. Jones sketched out several exploratory silhouettes, describing them as looking like the Mantis on steroids. From there, Rothery created 4 rough 3D models, each offering a distinct direction. A1, a triangular, arrowhead-shaped design similar to the Polaris. B2, a more ripped, detailed design based on Jones' sketches. C1, a ship with large engine nacelles, somewhat reminiscent of the Constellation. D1, a ship with split lines and a ripped hull, giving it a layered structure. After reviewing these concepts, Chris Roberts gave his feedback. The Perseus needed less interior space. It had to feature more distinct external guns. After all, this was a gunboat. Rothery responded with 2 more concepts, E1 and F1, which added ringed drive arrays and split hull designs. However, these ended up looking more like explorers than warships, so they were set aside for possible future ships. Going back to the drawing board, Jones and Rothery adjusted the original 4 concepts, adding more visible turrets, bigger, heavier guns, and a more aggressive shape. From these revised concepts, B2 stood out as the strongest contender. Jones took the model and merged it with his original sketches, further refining the look. At this stage, it was all about the rule of cool. Some elements had no purpose yet, but the ship needed to feel intimidating and powerful. Once again, the design went to Chris Roberts for final feedback. He liked the direction of B2 but wanted an elevated bridge for better visibility, a chin turret for additional firepower, and even bigger guns. Most interestingly, Roberts introduced a new reference: Civil War ironclad gunboats. These were small, heavily armored warships with massive cannons, and that historical influence would help shape the Perseus into the floating artillery platform we know today. With this in mind, the team iterated further, creating options H and J, which leaned heavily into the ironclad aesthetic. However, it was option K, featuring a refined silhouette, chunkier turrets, and an elevated bridge. That hit the sweet spot. By the time the K3 version was completed, the team had locked into the final direction of the Perseus. Chris Roberts gave the green light with just a few last-minute requests. First, remove the side prongs. And second, make the ship's weapons fully integrated rather than modular turrets. And with that, concept phase 1 was complete. The Perseus had transformed from an idea into a fully realized RSI warship, ready for the next phase of development. With the exterior locked in, it was time to figure out the interior, a crucial step that would determine how players experience the ship from the inside. The first challenge: no detailed room list was included in the original design brief. That meant Paul Jones and the team had to decide what rooms were needed, where cargo would be loaded, and how players would move through the ship. The first interior layout was built around a large buggy ramp, which made sense from the outside, but inside? It threw off the entire flow of the ship. Jones wasn't happy. Turrets needed to be accessible, the bridge had to be easy to reach, and the entire layout needed to feel intuitive. To fix this, Jones and Gavin Rothery reworked the internal structure, creating color-coded 3D models to experiment with different layouts. They adjusted the cargo lift, rearranged missing rooms, and tried to streamline movement. But something still felt off. There wasn't a single obvious problem, but the flow still wasn't right. The interior would need further refinement, a process that would continue into the next development phase. With the first concept phase complete, it was time to bring the Perseus one step closer to reality. That meant refining both the exterior and interior while making sure the ship's design would actually work in-game. The first pass review was a major milestone. Paul Jones and Gavin Rothery presented their work to multiple teams, not just for approval, but as a gut check. The goal? Make sure the ship's design wouldn't create problems down the road for the teams who would build it in-engine, animate its movements and bring it to life. And of course, problems did show up. Key design changes were needed. The underslung turret was an issue for landing. The team had to move it further back, which led to an overall bulkier turret design. The crew count increased from 4 to 6. More space was needed. But luckily, this wasn't the first time Star Citizen multi-crew ship had to be expanded mid-development. The cargo bay needed reworking. To improve function and flow, it was redesigned to be more in line with the Hammerhead. The main gun's elevation angles needed testing. A series of adjustments ensured it could cover enough range to be effective in combat. The biggest challenge for the next phase was reworking the interior to make movement feel more fluid and functional. Several major changes happened here. Animated torpedo storage racks were added, making weapon handling more immersive. The docking collar was moved to connect its airlock directly to the cargo room, improving access. An elevated walkway was introduced over the cargo area, allowing players to seamlessly move from the torpedo room to the mechanics bay and then forward into the torpedo entrance. This improved flow dramatically. No more awkward paths, just clean, efficient movement through the ship. Jones even noted that the elevated walkway would look particularly cool in-game. And then another late-stage request from Chris Roberts, a captain's cabin. The team adapted quickly, rearranging the layout to fit in a private captain's quarters with a desk, bed, toilet and shower, all in one compact space. Beyond the interior work, the Perseus exterior also saw key upgrades. The main turret was made bigger and bulkier, helping it stand out as a unique weapon system rather than just another turret. Maneuvering thrusters were adjusted, following Roberts' feedback for better handling. The upper turret was upgraded to a CIWS-style defensive emplacement, giving the ship better close-range protection. Larger VTOL thrusters were added for improved landing capabilities. The docking collar received a final adjustment, with a mirrored area added on the opposite side for symmetry. With all these changes implemented, it was time for the Perseus' biggest presentation yet, the second pass review. Gavin Rothery delivered an updated, polished 3D model and Jones made final paint overs, adding details and split lines to refine the look even further. He noted that at this stage, artists can develop snow blindness, so working together was essential to keep things on track and realistic. The interior presentation was also updated, showing off crew accommodations, mess room, now featuring a TV and a reworked entrance for better accessibility, captain's quarters, bridge and the engineering section. Jones was particularly pleased with the captain's cabin, calling it a great blend of functionality and personal space. He also expected some future adjustments to the crew barracks, but they were already designed with the correct number of beds for 6 crew members. With the design fully locked in, it was time for the final delivery. Not to players just yet, but as a ready-to-sell concept ship for its IE debut. At this stage, the team focused on polishing the final presentation. That meant adding lighting, markings and small details to refine the look. Making subtle tweaks to the exterior, ensuring the ship's form wasn't lost under excessive detail. experimenting with paint schemes, from simple designs which Chris Roberts didn't like to complex ones which felt too busy. Jones even tested a World War I inspired dazzle camo, pushing the boundaries of Perseus' aesthetic. The final delivery board was prepared for art director sign-off. This wasn't just promo material, it was a blueprint for future implementation. It documented everything developers needed, from material usage and file dimensions to weapon placements and thruster layouts. And then came the marketing push. The concept team put together over a dozen action-packed renders, showing the Perseus alongside other warships, firing torpedoes and unleashing its massive guns. Even in these final stages, Jones found ways to improve the ship. He expanded the torpedo room for larger racks and more visible magazine-fed launcher, updated the bridge, giving the command station better visibility, a crucial change for player experiences. And he finalized the details on moving turret seats and ballistic magazines, ensuring plenty of opportunities for animation and immersive audio. With that, the Perseus was ready, not just as a concept ship for IAE, but as a future warship in the verse, waiting for its day to launch. And that's a wrap on this deep dive into the RSI Perseus, a ship born from concept, refined through iteration, and set to become a force in the Star Citizen fleet. Let me know, are you planning to get the Perseus? Drop a comment below, and if you enjoyed this breakdown, smash that like button, subscribe for more Star Citizen content, and stay tuned for the next episode. I'm Jack Long, and this is Jack Space Games. See you in the verse.